guys, it's Avery and welcome back to another video. If you saw my last little update video, you might have remembered that I had mentioned making a video about how to manage your college course load, and this is said video. But before we get into it, there are a couple of disclaimers I would like to make. Number one being, don't be deterred from this video just because it says college in the title. I honestly feel like a lot of the tips I'm about to include are really applicable to the high school and even to a certain extent middle school setting. So don't feel like that none of this will be useful to you just because you might not be in college yet. Secondly, like with any piece of advice, what works for me may not always work for everyone else. This is especially true in the context of studying and learning, and the way you study and learn information is going to be a lot different depending on your area of study, and there's also other factors that play into it, such as levels of neurodivergency. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. Obviously everything that I mention in here is not going to be applicable to every single person, so just take what resonates with you and leave what doesn't. But with that being said, let's jump into it. Alright, so my first piece of advice is to read your course syllabus, and I am not just talking about on the first day of class. I am talking about actually holding on to that syllabus or keeping some sort of copy of it so that you can refer back to it throughout the quarter, semester, year, however long your course is. The reason I say it's helpful to keep the syllabus is a lot of the times your syllabus is going to have really important information about the course inside of it, specifically important due dates and deadlines that are going to be coming up throughout the year, expectations of the professor, how to contact the professor, attendance policies if there are any. I know my school does, which is kind of dumb because I'm the one paying for the class. Also, the way your grade is going to be broken down. I feel like there have been many times in my classes where a student will ask a question that is clearly already explained in the syllabus, so it'd be a lot less frustrating for yourself and your professor if you just have this information at hand so that you are already aware of it. My next piece of advice is to try to take things just 1 week or one class at a time. If you're taking a lot of different classes, the workload can be really overwhelming if you're thinking about all these different projects that you have coming up. So for me, I like to just take things 1 week at a time, try to figure out everything I need to do for that specific week and take it from there. For some people, even just looking at 1 week might be really stressful. So to that I say maybe try approaching it just one class at a time and getting what you need to get done for each of your classes one at a time. I know that some people are not going to have the time or even the energy to complete every single one of their assignments. And if this is the case, I recommend that you prioritize your assignments based on how much of your grade they are worth. So for example, let's say you have 2 big essays that are due, but for one class the essay is worth 25% of your grade, and for the other class the essay is only worth 10% of your grade. If you know that you're not going to have time to do both, I would put your effort into the one that's worth 25% of your grade, because this one has the potential to have a much larger impact on your grade. Alright, so I know some of you are really going to hate me for this next piece of advice, but I do advise making a to-do list, so to speak. Now, I already know what some of you are going to say.
Avery, I have ADHD. Making a list does not motivate me to do my work.
And I understand. I also have ADHD. Now, I don't think making a to-do list necessarily motivates you to get your work done, but it does help you keep track of your assignments, especially if you have a lot going on. I have found that when I try to keep track of everything in my head, I'll tend to forget about these smaller projects, and while they may not be worth as large of a portion of my grade, it adds up when you keep forgetting about these really small things. So for me, even if a to-do list doesn't motivate me, it at least helps me visualize what I need to get done. I also recommend setting up the list so that you have your assignments listed in the order that they are due, or you could also list them in order of weightedness from heaviest weight to least weight. That makes sense? I don't know if I structured that sentence right, but I think you know what I mean. My next piece of advice is that I would highly recommend using your professor's office hours, or if you're in high school or middle school, going to your teacher after class to help get some of your unanswered questions answered, or it's even a good time to get some clarification that you might have been too shy to ask in front of the whole class. I've even gone to my professor's own office hours, and even though it can be a little intimidating to go during that time, I honestly feel like it really helped me when I did go, especially if I was really confused about an assignment. It's a really easy, straightforward way to get some clarification without really having to think into it too much. much. Also, if you're struggling in a class, going to your professor's office hours is a great way to show them that you genuinely care about your learning and that you're putting in the effort to try to understand the content. If you're struggling in the future, they're way more likely to be lenient with you if they've seen that you're putting in the effort to try to better understand what you're learning. Another great reason to go to office hours is because it's a great way to get to know your instructor on a personal level, especially if you go to a school where your instructor sees a lot of students every day. It helps them kind of put a face to your name. This is also really good for when you need letters of recommendation in the future for potential graduate programs or maybe even a job. If your professor has seen you in their office a few times, they're more likely to remember you and your work, and they're more likely to put in a positive recommendation for you. I know some people are pretty shy and it can be really intimidating trying to see your professor after class. So to that I say you can always try reaching out over email. It might take them a little bit longer to get back to you, but at least in that way you can still get some questions answered without having to face the intimidation factors of meeting face to face with the professor. Alright, so I might be a little bit of a hypocrite in sharing this next piece of advice, but I do not advise procrastinating and putting everything off to the last minute. I know it's super easy to do, especially when your assignments are the last thing you want to do, but if you have a lot going on and you put everything off at once, it's going to pile up really quick. And then when you have to do everything last minute, not only are you going to be stressed out, you're going to be on a time crunch, and you're also not going to have as much time to maybe put in as much effort as you would like into an assignment. And so because of this, you might be sacrificing some quality for the sake of your leisure time, and it could lead to a lower grade, which is likely to stress you out even more. I feel like the best way to try to manage procrastination is to just try to space your assignments out. I know it's easier said than done. Trying to take things just one at a time and giving yourself a little bit of a break in between allows yourself to really focus on each thing that you're doing, and it also helps relieve some feelings of burnout. This next piece of advice is a little bit in line with the idea of spacing out your assignments, but it's the idea of using the 30-10 or the 60-30 rule. Now these rules are kind of a study method where you use the first portion of the time to work on your homework and assignments, and then you use the second portion of the time to just do whatever you want. So for example, in the 30-10, you would be doing 30 minutes of homework followed by a 10-minute break, and so on. Or at the 60-30 rule, you have 60 minutes of homework followed by 30 minutes of leisure time. This type of study style doesn't work the best for me personally, but I have seen it work really well for other people, and it works especially well if you have a specific time of day set out of your schedule for using this method. My next piece of advice is to host study groups or have little study parties with your friends. I feel like it is way easier to stay on task and stay focused if the people around you are also trying to stay on task and focused. If you do it with friends, you might think it would be counterintuitive and that you would be really distracted by your friends. But even with my friends who distract me a lot, I feel like I get a lot done if we're just all sitting down trying to do something. Also, if you're studying with friends, you could use hanging out as a reward after the fact. For example, maybe everyone agrees that after 1 hour of doing homework, you guys can all go get pizza or something. For this next tip, I'm pretty sure there's some psychological research that backs this tip, but I can't cite anything off the top of my head right now, so don't quote me on that. But I'm pretty sure that when you are trying to study in a space or location that you usually spend leisure time, psychologically it is much harder for you to focus because of the fact that your brain associates that space with free time and relaxing. Basically what I'm saying is try to study somewhere outside of your room or outside of places that you typically spend leisure time. So for example, if you're used to hanging out in your room, maybe try doing homework out in your living room or kitchen instead. Or if you genuinely hang out around the house a lot, you could always try going somewhere like the library where it's really quiet and structured. I do recommend going somewhere like a library because of the fact that the environment really encourages you to stay on task, especially when there's other people there who are also trying to get things done. So my last piece of advice for managing your college coursework is more so of a general principle, but it's along the idea of advocating for yourself and holding yourself accountable. At least in college, you're the one who's paying for your classes, so your teachers don't really care if you pass or fail. I mean, obviously they want you to pass, they want you to succeed, but if you're not putting in a lot of effort and it's very obvious that you aren't, they're not gonna feel so bad about failing you. But teachers do want to work with you, so it is your job to communicate and try to reach out when you're struggling. I know it can be easier said than done sometimes, but you really just have to advocate for yourself in the end. When it comes to holding yourself accountable, don't make excuses for your performance when at the end of the day, your grade is kind of on you. Now, obviously, there are some exceptions to this principle. Firstly, people with intellectual or learning disabilities. Obviously, there are some things that are out of your control in that sense. But with that being said, do take advantage of any disability accommodations that your school might offer, because these accommodations are designed to try to help you with your learning. For example, my school offers peer note takers for people who struggle to pay attention during class, and they also have extended deadlines for some students who need extra time to complete a test or an assignment. Even if you don't have disability accommodations, a lot of professors are going to be willing to work with you. So if you're struggling and you need some extra time to do something, just reach out. The worst they can say is no, and if they do say no, oh well, at least you know you asked. But along the idea of accountability, I'm really talking about not making excuses like,
oh, well, this teacher sucks at teaching, or I just have too much going on, I don't have enough time.
Well, to a certain extent, these things could be true. At the end of the day, it is up to you to reach out when you're struggling or not understanding something, to make the time to complete assignments, and to set yourself up for success. Alright, you guys, those are all of the general tips I have for you on how to manage your college coursework. I hope you have found these tips to be helpful. Let me know down in the comments if there's something that I didn't mention, because you could be helping someone else or even myself. I also wanted to add to not forget to find a good work-life balance. I honestly don't think a 4.0 is worth sacrificing all of your mental health. It is okay to take a break from your work sometimes if you need to prioritize yourself. Speaking from personal experience, you will be dead inside if you only prioritize schoolwork all the time. At the end of the day, a grade is just a letter, a GPA is just a number, and your academics don't define who you are as a person. I know really, really smart people who have horrible grades. And I also know some people who are not so smart, but they have really good grades because they put in a lot of effort. It just goes to show that good grades are not necessarily an indication of some unachievable level of intelligence. The fact of the matter is the American education system just works better for some people more than others, but it's a matter of finding study methods and learning styles that work best for you. I also just wanted to apologize if the camera angles change a lot throughout this video, or if some clips are more in focus than others. I'm trying to film this video in between classes because I've been meaning to make it for a really long time. I just haven't had the time, so I'm trying to do it quickly right now, so sacrificing a little bit of quality for that. Sorry if it bothered you, but it is what it is. But anyway, yeah, like I said, that's all I have for you guys. Again, if there's something I didn't include, please mention it in the comments because I would love to hear back from you guys. And yeah, that's all I have for now. I gotta get going to work. So I will see you guys in my next video, and I will talk to you later. Bye!